Buccaneer touchdown.
Oh boy, what memories that brings back. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Pigskin Thursday, a production of Frankly Speaking Sports. So very, very happy to have everybody with us on this beautiful Thursday night. And boy, do we got a lot of information, a lot of things to get into. Boy, do we got a full, fun-packed show today. First of all, I do want to remind all of you that we do have a call-in number here. So if you want to get involved with the show in any way, shape, or form, you can leave a comment. You can go ahead and call in. There's a call-in number our producer just put up on the screen right now. It's 813-922-9810. If you want to call in, talk some. Tonight's going to be a lot of Buccaneer football. We're going to do a pick slater tonight for week 8. So far, Frankly Speaking Sports is 54 and 51 on the season when picking with the point system. So lots and lots of information. Let's get fired up. We got a big game coming up Monday. Right now, the Buccaneers are 5-2. Everything's looking good. So we should have a lot of positivity on this show tonight. We're going to hear from Devin White tonight. We're going to hear from Donovan Smith tonight. So you're going to get that. And also 30 minutes from now, we're going to have on, he's the host of his own show on Sirius Radio. He also is the pre, half, and post-time game host of the New York Giants Radio. So just a great, great show with Lance Medow will be joining us. So, sit back, enjoy, share, and boy, do we got an incredible, incredible night in store for you tonight with talk. We're going to break down the Buccaneers versus the New York Giants. We're not going to go into a whole lot of things that happened last week in that game because we did that a couple times already, and I don't want to be too repetitive with the information we're giving out. Plus, I want lots of people to go ahead and feel like they can get their voice heard. Go ahead and give us a call on the Frankly Speaking Sports hotline at 813-922-9810. We got a big raffle later on we're going to talk about. Some of you can win tickets to a future Buccaneers game. Some of you can also win a getaway, a two-way getaway vacation, as well. So a lot, we got giveaways, we got raffles, we got you name it, and we got it. What a great, great show we have for you. But we're going to start off with something that does involve football, but it involves all sports in general. And I really want to get into it because it's a topic that people seem to be naive of, and they always wonder, why, Larry? Why, Larry, are we having this issue? Well, I'm going to go ahead and explain to you why we're having this issue. And a lot of people of late, especially with the World Series just ending, the NBA Finals just ending, the NHL Stanley Cup, by the way, Tampa Bay Lightning Stanley Cup winners, and Tampa Bay Rays American League champions. We've been hearing a lot about the TV ratings in professional sports and how they're going down. At a time with the coronavirus in place, sports starting back up, yet we still had issues with TV ratings still being lower than they've ever been for these finals. And I'm going to get into why. And a lot of people act surprised that these things are going on. Why is the NBA Finals one of the lowest NBA Finals ever? Why is the Stanley Cup one of the lowest watched Stanley Cups in history? Why is the MLB World Series one of the lowest ranked ratings? Guys, it has nothing to do with the teams in it. Okay, maybe a little bit, but you had the Dodgers in it, okay? You had an exciting team like the Rays, okay? But, and then in the basketball, you had LeBron James, you had the Lakers, you had the Miami Heat. They were good teams in all of these championships. The bottom line is society has changed, and if you want to know why we have low TV ratings and less people are watching sports, it's been happening before coronavirus. Why? Because we don't get our children anymore involved in those extracurricular activities that we did when we were kids. We would go outside. There'd always be a pickup game. We would go outside. There'd be a football game, baseball game, basketball game. You shoot a puck, whether it was street hockey, into a net. You kick a soccer ball. There was always something to do. And nowadays, we throw people in front of our phones. We have these things called cell phones. We have this crazy, silly, stupid thing that has ruined this country. It's called social media. Those are the reasons why kids aren't watching or being active in these sports. There is nothing out there, and I will go as far as saying nothing out there that can teach a young child, female or male, more about life than being involved in an extracurricular sport like baseball or football or basketball or hockey or volleyball or whatever sport might be out there. There are a lot of sports. It shows kids how to work together. It shows kids how to do things as a team. It shows kids how to accomplish a goal, how to try to win, how to be successful and give it all you got until you don't got no more. We are losing that. We are not getting our children involved in these things. Why are we? I don't know. I'm not here to preach. I'm here to explain the facts. Why aren't kids watching these games on TV? The bottom line is they're playing video games. Okay? And people say, well, Larry, didn't we have video games when we were kids? Yes, we did. Definitely not to the extent they have now. But let's look at our day. We wake up in the morning. We go to school. We come home from school. Okay? We would use the daylight hours to be the most productive and have fun. We played those games when it was dark outside or raining outside. Nowadays, kids are coming home. As they're coming home from school, they're on their cell phones. They're on social media. Social media has ruined this world, and it's taken the activities we are going to have in the next 20 years. One of the greatest amount of laziness that this country has ever had because of this. We'd rather be on a computer. We allow our kids to be on the phone. We allow our kids to watch Netflix all day long. There's just so many more things out there that we're allowing our kids to do. And, some people say, well, Larry, do you know what it costs nowadays to put your kids into an activity? And I know it's not cheap. I have kids. I understand that. But there's a lot of organizations out there trying to work and trying to help kids get into these leagues and help pay for them. And that's one of the things I want to accomplish in the future. Someone asked me the other day, they said, Larry, you told me you wanted to get in this so you can make a difference, help kids out, help people out. And it's going to happen. As soon as I get big enough, I promise you, we're going to start an organization out there where we give back to kids and we allow the underprivileged kids whose families may not be able to afford as much as other families to go ahead and grant them ways to go ahead and play these sports and get off the damn computers, get off the damn social media. And, it's the families out there that bother me in the sports avenue of it all is when they say we can't afford it. You can't afford to put your kid in an after-curricular activity, yet you can go ahead and buy them a $500 cell phone, or let them run it up, or get them video games. It's ridiculous, and it's a lie, and it's a cop-out. Okay, we need to get our kids more involved in sports like we were when we were kids. Because right now, when you look at the direction sports are going in, it's up to us to fix it. Because right now, the TVs can't fix it. Showing it on TV. The way you fix it, you take your son or daughter to a ball game. One of the best times I've ever had. My first ball game, Shea Stadium, the Atlanta Braves versus the New York Mets. My dad took me. Those are memories you cannot forget. And the kids are missing out on that today. Oh, my first football game, the Jets versus the Patriots in what was called Schaefer Stadium in Foxborough, Massachusetts. Steve Grogan was quarterbacking. I mean, those were the days. You remember those things. You never forget it. And, it's just before, I just want to say, and I want everybody to understand that it's up to us to teach the kids how great sports is on an everyday basis because of the things they observe from it and all the different things they learn, life lessons that sports has to present. And that's my take on that. If you want to call in, you want to chime in on that, or you can leave a message right there and I will get it. Let me know you're here, or you can call in at 813-922-9810. That is our call-in number. So please go ahead. In about 15 minutes, Lance Medow, Sirius FM radio host, and he also works for Giants Radio as a pre-half and post-game show host, will be joining us. We're going to break down the Buccaneers. We're going to break down the Giants. And we're going to also hear from, believe it is, Devin White and also Donovan Smith. But when you talk about this game, okay, the last two games, one of the things that I mentioned the last two nights is you got to start giving kudos where kudos deserve. We as fans all the time like to criticize whether it's Kevin Cash pulling a pitcher or it's a guy on the offensive line not playing well. We like to criticize. And too often we don't give enough credit when credit is due. And the last two games, I think Donovan Smith has played his butt off, doing the best he could, and has really, really solidified that line to a very solid offensive line. Brady's not even getting touched. I don't know what happened. I don't know who lit a fire under, whoever it was, thank you, because right now he is looking like one of the best offensive linemen over the past two games. And let's give this man credit. And, you got to ask yourself, what is different? Donovan Smith, all of a sudden, it's like he's just like a new person out there. So let's go ahead and see what he had to say. We'll listen to a little bit of his press conference when that question came up.
A couple of weeks ago, I think it was the aberration. Really, you guys had a lot of penalties in that Chicago game, but since then, man, I don't think Brady. He hasn't been sacked, and he might have been touched one time. So, what's really kind of pulled that protection together, and just the way you guys have been playing as a unit the last couple of weeks, especially.
I think you just need to commend all the guys on doing their job. Coach, obviously, he stressed the point about penalties and that we can't have pre-snap penalties. So, after he said that, we kind of, had to sit there and do our job. But a lot of it is just being able to be on the same page, communication-wise, and whatnot. And then, we got good guys out there playing. So everybody out there doing their job.
And when Tom, as he's wont to do when things don't go well, I mean, he's not afraid to get in guys' grills a little bit, right? So what's been your experience with his fire on the sideline, and just how do you guys accept that, as well as the praise he gives you, obviously, after every game?
Surprise is I don't think that I've heard him really like go off. It's a lot of positive yelling that he does. Like you say, no penalties. We can't have that type of stuff. But it's great to be able to have somebody who's, been to the top and been to the Super Bowl and know how to get there. And, you just kind of sit there and you trust him and how he managed the game. And like I said, communication and everything. So, Tom's been great, with a lot of guys, and, we love him. So.
And that was Donovan Smith. And, what a great couple of weeks he had. this is the one thing about getting a great player or a couple of great players like the Tom Brady's and the Gronkowskis is they make everybody better around them. Everybody is better around them. They up the level of how it's supposed to be played, and everybody seems to rise to a different level and the level of success. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful thing to do. Last week, Tom was once again terrific. I mean, what he was, I don't even remember, have his stats in front of me, but I know he threw for 369 yards, 4 touchdowns, a rushing touchdown, hit 9 different receivers. I mean, and people are asking, what about Mike Evans? What about Mike Evans? Guys, we have a common goal. This team has a common goal, and it is to win ball games. What's going to happen now is as you continue to they won't be able to double team Mike Evans forever. They can do it now, but what's happening now? You're filing the Tyler Johnsons, you're finding the Hudsons, you're finding the Scotty Millers, you're finding the Rob Gronkowskis, you're finding the Cameron Braids, you're finding Chris Godwin. And then what happens? Now you got, sooner or later you're going to be down to man. And let's not forget the wonderful Antonio Brown, who we'll talk about in a minute. It's just unbelievable, but, it's amazing. And then you look at the level they're playing on offense, and it's amazing the level that the defense is starting to play up to. I got a couple of concerns on the defense, and we'll talk about it in a minute. But let's hear from the MV. What I guess he was the defensive player of the week, 3 sacks. I think he had 9 tackles. Just an incredible game by Devin White. Let's go ahead and listen to him for a couple seconds.
A couple of weeks ago, I think it was the aberration. Really, you guys had a lot of penalties in that Chicago game, but since then, man, I don't think Brady. He hasn't been sacked, and he might have been
hold on 1 minute. I
so.
put the wrong thing on there, folks. So looks like I might have took the wrong one off. Let me see if I can find it, or if I went ahead and I might have. Nope, there it is. I got it. There we go. Let's go ahead and hear from him.
Congratulations on Player of the Week. Can you describe, why you were successful in getting the 3 sacks on Sunday and your perspective of that unbelievable hit on Derek Carr?
I think I was successful in getting 3 sacks all because of the other 10 guys around me that's on the field at the time when I made those plays. I think everything that I do on the field go hand in hand with what they do, without great coverage, and a great pass rush, it all works together. So I credit everything to the guys around me. And, I credit it to God, for my athletic ability to be able to make those plays. And as far as the hit on Derek Carr, that play that they ran, we had worked that play so many times against the exact defense that we call against that play. So I knew what the play was going to be. They wanted like a throwback to Jason Witten. And I knew Levante Davis was going to take that throwback away. And I just manned the middle of the field. But the thing I didn't see coming was him scrambling for the first down. But, we knowing he uses legs all night. That's where a lot of their rushing yards came from. So my whole thing was not to let him get the first down. And I just felt like if I was able to get a hit on him, I wanted to, get an impact.
And oh boy, what an impact he did make. Like I said, 3 sacks, just an incredible game, and just an incredible year so far by Devin White, who is completely just unbelievable. Between him and Levante David, everywhere you go, you see one of those 2 guys. Like I said, my buddy Levante David, most underrated player in the NFL by far, is always involved, just like Devin White. Now, there's 2 players that stick out that are concerning to me right now and that people want to talk about. First of all was the acquisition of Antonio Brown. Now, I'm going to want all the fans to listen to me, and I want you to listen to me good. When you look at Antonio Brown and you forget about the issues he has and you talk about him just as a football player and what he brings to a team from an ability standpoint, you can't ask for anyone better, okay? Antonio Brown is a terrific asset from the ability side of the football. The part that scares the heck out of you is how is his attitude and how is he going to fit in with the rest of the guys. And I think a couple of things. Antonio Brown, somebody got a hold of him, I'm telling you, and told him, you screwed up bad, buddy. You gave up $28 million because you are an idiot, and you're being given another chance to make it in the NFL. This is by far his last chance, and he knows it. I'm sure Tom Brady, who's very close with him, has talked to him. Antonio Brown adds another weapon to an already unbelievable, high-powered offense who is hurting a little bit. Godwin's got a broken finger. Evans is banged up a little bit. Scotty Miller is banged up a little bit. Obviously, we know Howard is out for the season. So this also gives guys a little bit of time to take an extra break. Now, remember, Antonio Brown cannot play to week 9 and till the 9th game of the season. Now, let me explain this to everyone. For some reason, if there is no game this Monday night, Antonio Brown still has to wait one more game because the game is an 8-game suspension, which means 8 games have to go by. So I just want to make sure that everybody is aware of that. But I think Antonio Brown will be a good fit. At first when they were talking about this, before camp, I wasn't the craziest about it. But the more I look at this and the more I dissect into it and understand something had to give there for them, they got him for nothing. So it's, it's really not a high risk. There's no high risk, low risk and high reward if you want to look at it that way, because he can only help this team. Believe me, Arians is not going to let him yell for the ball. Arians, and either is Brady. Those guys are not going to allow that, and he knows that going in. So it's been set in stone what the expectations are, and you're going to see, I'm telling you, it's going to be a great, great fit for the remainder of the year for your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But the guy that concerns me, and I talked about him the last 3 weeks, is still Bunting. Sean Murphy Bunting just seems to be confused out there. Here's a guy, 7 games, he has 20 tackles, averaging a little over 2 tackles a game. He's not being seen anywhere. He's getting beat on certain plays. So if you want to talk about one negative thing in this bright thing we got going on now, I would be concerned about our passing defense. There's times we're getting beat. We got beat again big time by Carr on that one play to Andujar near the end zone for a big play. Those are what scare me. I like to see Bunting getting more involved. I don't know what happened. I don't know if he's feeling well. I don't know if he's hurt. But he does not look like the player he was at the end of last year right now. So hopefully he'll get out of that, and he'll get out of that funk, and hopefully, we can get him back. I like Carlton. I like Jamel Dean out there, but I'm just very, very concerned about Sean Murphy Bunting. And for those of you that are listening on several different websites right now, I see a lot of people are on different platforms. Leave a message. Let me know what you think. I'll get your message on the air here, and we'll go ahead and play that. Or go ahead and call in at 813-922-9810. We're about 5 minutes away from having Lance Medow come on. So you might want to wait till after that to go ahead and call in. We're going to be breaking down the Buccaneers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the New York Giants, who play this Monday night. Now, remember, we are playing up against, and we're going to talk to Lance about this, a defense, a New York Giant defense that has allowed teams 47 times out of 93 attempts to make third down conversions, and 6 out of 7 times they've given up fourth down conversions. They're also allowing 5.4 yards per play, which the Buccaneers love to hear that. They don't give up a bunch of rushing yards, but, they give up about 100 a game. But here's a team that has a very, very, their line is killing them. You got a guy named Daniel Jones who's already been I think knocked down 20 times this year and, has 5 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. So in about 3-4 minutes, we'll get Lance on the phone. But before we do that, we want to take a couple station breaks right now. And I'm going to raise some of these up for you so that you guys can go ahead and definitely see them. So let me try to do that real quick. All right. Here is our first one. Want to let everybody know this Monday night, you looking for a place to watch a game? Oh, my gosh. Let me see if I can find this for you. Stay with me, folks. All right. I'm trying to get everything up here. All right. There you go. There we go. Dave and Buster's this Monday night. Do we have a treat for you? Crew Life and the Buccaneer Invasion, in association with the Buccaneer Invasion, has a watch party going on at Dave and Buster's. The address is up there. It's 1029 Estuary Lakes Drive, Tampa, Florida. I got the zip code up there. You plug that into your phone. It'll get you right there. It's incredible the way technology works nowadays. Well, come out, meet us, greet us, have a blast with us. Let's all root for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to defeat the New York Giants. That's Monday night. Obviously, the game time is shortly after 8 o'clock. You probably want to get there a little bit early. I would say at least drive somewhere between 7 and 7:30 that night. And join Crew Life and Buccaneer Invasion for an unbelievable watch party. And then, folks, just when you think it can't get any better, let me go ahead and first get this back down to size. All right, I'm going to take that off real quick. And let me see if I can find my other advertisement. There we go. This is the one. Guys, if you're looking for an unbelievable raffle that these guys got going on, it's incredible. You can go to crewforlife.com to find out more information. But real quickly, I'm going to give you a rundown. I'm going to do a couple of things. Stay with me here while I move some of these things out of the way. All right. Let's get that one off. All right, there we go. All right, there we go. The game day ticket giveaway. Guys, if you haven't heard about this, go to crew4life.com. Crew4life.com. We have tickets to see our very own Tampa Bay Buccaneers take on the New Orleans Saints in what could actually be a battle of the NFL South. Okay? Here are the details to enter the drawing, which will be conducted and hosted by John Stone of the Buccaneer Treasure Cove. You will need to go to, like I said, www.crew4life.com and register using the giveaway form. The form can be found at the bottom of the page. Upon completion, you will be sent a confirmation code or confirmation email, This will automatically enter you into the drawing for the tickets to the game. Now, if you would like additional entries to join the drawing for those tickets, you can purchase, listen to this, for $20, a Fan Cruise raffle ticket. That's right. You get to go on a cruise. That's it. In the water with the fish, with the dolphins, everything. You get to go. Bar, everything. Oh, baby. This is awesome. This will put 2 additional entries into the drawing. Plus, you can win a fabulous vacation next year. The link to sign up for this cruise can also be found at www.cruiseforlife.com under the event tab. Now, listen to this, guys. Guess where all proceeds go? Not in our pockets. All proceeds of the cruise raffle go to What the Buck Really Matters, a local 501c in the Tampa community who continues to give back in the community. Drawing for the Bucks vs. Saints tickets will be held live on Thursday, November 4th. I want to give a very special thank out to Rick Bell, Deep South Cabinetry, for this very generous donation for the crew. Crew4life.com. So unbelievable stuff right there. That's what we believe. Getting involved in the community. There's nothing better than getting to know the people that listen to us and know us on a daily basis. So thank you very much, CrewForLife.com and Rick Bell and everybody else who is associated with that. It should be one heck of a time. And also a reminder about the tailgate party Monday night. So, looking forward to that. In a moment, we should have Lance Meadows coming on. I'm going to find out right now and let him know we are ready. All right. I think he's coming on right now. Wow, that could have done that better if I tried. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's my great honor, thrill, and pleasure to introduce to you, he's the pre-half post-game host on the Giants Radio Network. He does Sirius FM. I mean, anything that has to involve with sports, this guy, some way or another, is involved in it. It is my great pleasure to introduce to you Lance Meadows. Lance, how you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm doing very well. How's everything with you?
Everything's going great, Lance. Going great. Lance, let's get this topic right off the bat with you because I know it's concerning everyone. And maybe you have some late news on this, maybe you don't. But, the COVID-19 scare that's going through the New York Giants, especially the offensive lineman and Hendricks and a couple of the other ones. What's the latest you're hearing, first of all, on these players, and second of all, on the status of the game on Monday night?
Well, as far as the status go, let's start there. Joe Judge spoke to the media earlier today, and he said he's very optimistic that the game is going to go on as scheduled. So I would say as of this point, there's really no concern. The big issue right now, as you alluded to, is the status of the Giants' offensive line. Kevin Zeitler, their starting right guard, he was the only starting offensive lineman that practiced on Thursday. Now, remember, they've got an extra day this week because they're playing on Monday night, so everything's moved back a day. But Joe Judge indicated that all of the other guys that are currently being quarantined are not at high risk. It's just a matter of going through the protocols and the procedures in terms of contact tracing. They're optimistic that they're going to get a bulk of those guys back for Friday's practice. So I think that overall, I think there's a high level of optimism that Monday's game will go on as scheduled and that the Giants will get 4 of their starting 5 offensive linemen on the field, with probably the exception of Will Hernandez, the left guard, because he's the one that tested positive. And I would say right now, I'd be very surprised if he could get through all the protocols in time for Monday night's game.
And, if you're a fan of the NFL and for some reason you don't follow the NFC East, you would think, the New York Giants, they're 1-5, 1-6. The Bucs have a game coming up. For the Buccaneers, obviously, it means a lot. The Giants are just probably throwing in the season. And then you look at that division and you realize, you're right, the Giants only do have 1 win. But they're only 1 game behind the leader in that division, who only has 2 games that they've won. It's kind of crazy if you think about it, isn't it?
It's very crazy. It actually reminds me of 2015, because if we go back to the archives, that year, Washington won the division in 9-7, but people forget, everybody was hovering around 500 for the bulk of that season. They were 5-7, and then they won their final 4 games. Kirk Cousins and the offense got on track, and everybody else did not. So it could very well play out that way in 2020. I do think the Eagles are going to start to separate themselves from the rest of the pack. I think that they're going to start to get some of their main weapons back. For example, Jalen Reagor, who's been on IR, their first-round pick, the top wide receiver, he's expected to come back for Sunday night's game against the Dallas Cowboys. And their offensive line is going to get healthy. Jason Peters will return. Their secondary is in much better shape. So the Eagles team we're going to see, I think, in a few weeks is going to be very different than the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde routine that they're playing right now. But as far as your point about the Giants, yeah, mathematically, they're still very much in the thick of things. There's no doubt about it. But in order to separate yourself from the pack, even in a division that is having a down year as it appears, you still have to win your divisional games. And you have to go at least 4-2 to have a legitimate shot to win the division. And the Giants right now have played 3 divisional games, and they've only won 1 of them. And the 2 that they lost were back-breaking losses, because you could argue they were in position to beat the Cowboys. And they were
Yep.
certainly in position to beat the Eagles last Thursday night. They were up by double digits, 21-10, and then Carson Wentz and company drive down the field twice. So there are still major issues with this team, specifically closing out games. Penalties have come back to bite them at the worst possible times. The offensive line is still a concern, and of course, turnovers. But that's not going to deny them an opportunity, to your point, to be in the thick of things. But it's hard for me to say that the Giants will be in contention for this division until they actually start winning their divisional games. And that hasn't happened over the last few seasons.
And, you'll find out after this week's game. I think the next two games are versus divisional opponents. So it'll be a good test for the Giants, obviously, with those two games coming up. But you talked about the offense, and I want to talk about Daniel Jones a little bit. The last time I saw Daniel Jones live was last year here in Tampa Bay, where it was opening day, I believe it was, and he came out and had an unbelievable game. And I want to ask you a couple. Here's a guy in the first not even the first half over yet. He's been knocked down already 20 times in the first 6 or 7 games. He's being pressured. The offensive line obviously isn't protecting him. Is this more of a Daniel Jones needs to learn more, or is it a more of we need to get a damn offensive line for this guy?
Boy, you sound like some Giants fans I hear from, Larry, on a consistent basis with that last statement. But it is an interesting question. And I think it's a combination of both, not to give you the boring answer, but there are multiple factors in play. Does Daniel Jones need to improve in terms of his decision making? Absolutely. There are times that you can argue he holds onto the ball a little too long because he's trying to make something out of nothing. And I think that was apparent if you go back to the Steelers game in week number 1, held onto the ball, he gets hit, and all of a sudden the ball flies up and the Steelers wind up getting an interception. And that was costly because it came right in the red zone. There's other times where by the time the snap comes, all of a sudden there's a defensive lineman or a pass rusher right in his gut. So, I think right now Daniel Jones is still going through the learning curve of a young quarterback. Remember, what a lot of people forget, he only started 12 games last season. So his first 4 starts this year was then the completion of a true rookie year. And then everything beyond the first 4 starts now is officially the beginning of his second year. On top of that, of course, he's learning a new offense again for the 3rd time in as many years. New offensive coordinator, new scheme, and a lot of new offensive linemen, specifically at the tackle position, which are the 2 most important positions with respect to Andrew Thomas, their first-round pick on the left side, Cam Fleming, the veteran, on the right. They've utilized Matt Peart, their 3rd-round pick. So there's a lot of movable parts. This is not an excuse, but as Bucs fans can attest to, they had continuity working in their favor because you had Bruce Arians and Todd Bowles returning. You just pretty much had to acclimate Tom Brady to the mix. And I said this all offseason, Larry. I thought those teams were going to have a distinct advantage over a team like the Giants that was bringing in a completely new coaching staff and a number of new players with the addition of new schemes. So, when you take all that into consideration, I think that's one of the factors why Daniel Jones and the offense is having its ups and downs, his decision making, of course, and then, the inability to have a consistent rushing attack to complement the likes of Daniel Jones. Any young quarterback, you need a running game. And when you don't have that, it's very tough sledding.
And, obviously losing Barkley was a big, big blow to this team early in the year. They got Devontae Freeman, who I'm not sure, where right now he is from a playing standpoint, as far as, obviously Atlanta wasn't happy with him. They were happier with the other guys they had. But when you look at the weapons that Daniel has, and put Freeman in there if you want, but, Slayton, Ingram's the tight end. You got Shepard. There's Golden Tate on that team. When you look at the names of these guys, they're not terrible offensive weapons. But like you said, here's a young guy. Not only, you talk about his second year learning a new system, but just like other people like Tom Brady had to do now, there's no comparison. I understand that, but there really was no camp. I mean, we had no preseason games. A lot of the OTAs and the mini camps were canceled. So, I just wonder with these kind of offensive weapons that they have, how he is struggling so much.
Well, to your point, you're right. There's a lot to like on paper, but let's also peel back the layers of everything that you just laid out. as you mentioned earlier, Saquon Barkley went down in week 2, so he's been nowhere to be found. That was an attractive piece that you figured Daniel Jones was going to have working in his favor all season. So you immediately eliminated by far their most electric player, their most dynamic player. Then on top of that, in that same game, Larry, remember, Sterling Shepard gets hurt. He suffers turf toe. He just returned in the last game, and Shepard, along with Golden Tate and Darius Slayton, were expected to be their 3 main wide receivers, with the addition, of course, of Evan Ingram at tight end. But now you had guys in and out of the lineup, and Tate is not the type of player that is going to have a monster game. He's going to make big plays. He's great in terms of yardage after the catch, but I don't think Golden Tate is the guy that you're feeding the ball to 10 times and you're expecting him to do the heavy lifting. So that's when all of a sudden you have Darius Slayton having to pick up the slack, and he had a really good rookie year. But like any defense and defensive coordinator that plays the Giants, and I brought this up more often than not, if you remove Saquon Barkley from the equation, you remove Sterling Shepard from the equation, okay, so I have to ask myself, what now am I concerned about? Well, I would say Evan Ingram. So I'm going to now roll over the safeties. I'm going to provide some double coverage on that side of the field, and I'm basically going to tell Daniel Jones, you're going to have to beat me with Darius Slayton and some of the complementary backs, as well as the other wide receivers who they've either brought up off the practice squad, or we're talking about guys that are 4th and 5th on the depth chart. And no disrespect to those players, but there's a distinct difference in terms of what Sterling Shepard and Golden Tate are bringing to the table versus those guys. And
if you're and I was just going to say, now, if you're this offensive line, you scared you and me talking, not the players' mindset, but it's got to be pretty scary going into Monday night knowing you're playing one of the best front 7 in the entire NFL at this point right now. It's got to be a scary situation with your quarterback. It's been knocked down 20 times. You got Devin White, who just won Defensive Player of the Week, had 3 sacks last week. This is a team that looks like the Buccaneers that are just starting to gel. It's not just on the offensive side of the ball, but the defensive side as well.
Yeah, I think Tampa Bay is probably one of the most balanced teams right now in the NFL, outside of the Pittsburgh Steelers, I would argue, who would probably take that label in the AFC. And yeah, as you hit on, I think the Giants have a lot to be concerned about, especially with currently what they're dealing with in terms of their starting offensive linemen, the bulk of them not practicing. Remember, this is a unit still trying to come together. And, people may argue, well, a practice here or there is not a big deal. For the Giants, Larry, you have 4 of your starting offensive linemen miss a practice as you're preparing for a very strong front 7, as you mentioned, with Tampa Bay. I do think that is a big deal because you got a lot of young guys still trying to get a feel for one another. And the more reps they get during the week is extremely crucial in terms of the outlook and the production on Sunday or Monday. So getting back to your point, yeah, this is a Tampa Bay defense that has recorded 25 sacks. That's the 2nd most in the NFL. JPP is going to be motivated going up against his former team.
Right.
We saw what Shaq Barrett did last season. He led the NFL with 19.5 sacks. I know he doesn't have monster numbers thus far, but he still has proven he can be an extremely effective pass rusher. And I love what Devin White has showed. Levante David, I don't think, gets enough credit. And, I think the reason why the Tampa Bay front 7 is playing effectively is their secondary has vastly improved. And I think by that group buying time for the front, you're seeing the perfect complementary football. But if the Giants don't protect Daniel Jones, this game could get very ugly. We've seen it in weeks before. To me, it's not about what the Giants defense does to try to slow down Tom Brady. Anybody who's asked me about this game, I would argue this is about the Giants offense, this game, because we've seen what the Bucs offense could do. Can the Giants keep up with the Bucs offense? That's going to determine where this game goes. And it starts, of course, in the trenches and whether or not they can contain the pass rush that Tampa Bay has shown, because it's not one guy. It clearly is piecemeal. It's a variety of different flavors that the Bucs are working with right now.
Yeah, like you said, Lance, it's whether they can keep up, like you said, with the offense of the Buccaneers, because you know what Brady brings to the table. You know what this offense brings to the table. And when in the event that this defense of the Buccaneers causes, let's say, him to get rattled, maybe causes a couple of turnovers early, it could be along that, because when you look at the defense of the Giants, 70% of the passes that they have thrown against that defense are completed successfully so far this year, which is a huge number. And I don't see that getting smaller with if Tom Brady is on fire this game. So you would have to think that in order, and I'm not knocking the Giants, but in order for them to be able to hold their own in this game, they're going to need to come out aggressive and, maybe cost a couple of quick unnecessary turnovers if it's in the Buccaneers running game, maybe Ronald Jones or whatever, and maybe get a quick lead on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, I think you hit it right in the nose. I think it's crucial for the Giants to win the turnover battle. That goes without saying. It may be one of those games where you need your defense to score a touchdown too. It's no coincidence that the one game the Giants won this season, they got a defensive touchdown, and that turned out to be the go-ahead and game-winning score when Tate Crowder returned the Kyle Allen fumble for a touchdown. So Washington went for two. They failed, and the Giants held on to win by a point. And this is the type of game where you're going to have to turn field position over. Well, how do you do that? You do that, as you hit on, with the assistance of your defense. So I'm in complete agreement with that. I think, though, what's also important to note, as you talked about Brady's efficiency and the big pass plays that we've seen, because we know Bruce Arians loves to take some chances down the field, and Brady seems to be buying into that philosophy, especially what we saw last week against the Raiders. The Giants have had issues when the opposing quarterback has targeted the corner opposite James Bradbury. James Bradbury, who I'm sure fans are familiar with because he played in the NFC South with the Carolina Panthers for the last few years. He was a very nice addition to the Giants secondary. He's held his own. He's one of the top leaders in passes defense. He's been opportunistic. So if you're a quarterback, you say, all right, we're not going to throw to James Bradbury. We're going to see what's going on the other side of the field. And they've been doing that specifically late in games. So what I see this game playing out, in addition to the trenches, is what happens on the defensive side of the ball. If Brady says, okay, whoever matches up with Bradbury, fine, let Bradbury win the battle. I'm going to pick on the opposite corner. That's going to tell an awful lot about how the Giants hold their own in this game.
And it's got to be helpful to the Giants that it looks like Chris Godwin will not be playing in this game, a broken finger. So that definitely hurts on the coverage side. So definitely helps the Giants. But, this is a team, the Buccaneers, Lance, and I've gotten to watch them all year, obviously, is it doesn't matter. I mean, Brady is hitting every single guy that's out there. 9 different receivers last week, the week before, 5 different receivers for touchdown. And, I think the only good thing maybe for the Giants here that Godwin is out is that Antonio Brown isn't in yet until the following week. Because, I was going to ask you is, as a defender, a guy, and you got to win on defense, how the hell do you cover this team? I mean, you go one-on-one, you play zone. I mean, they can beat you with so many weapons.
They can. And that's why I was going to say, when you brought up, is it a gift that Chris Godwin's out? Larry, the bottom line is it seems as if the Bucs have one of the best depth charts in the NFL right now. I mean, look at what Scotty Miller's doing. Tyler Johnson they drafted. I mean, we haven't even brought up those names. Gronkowski now seems to get more and more comfortable every week with Brady. Yeah, it's quite the headache and the undertaking for this Giants secondary. And I think that whether it's man-to-man or zone, I think you got to mix it up with Brady. But, everybody's pointing out, it's interesting as we're talking about this chess match that you just hit on. Joe Judge, who's the Giants head coach, he's been around Brady for many years because he was the special teams coordinator for New England. He was also the wide receivers coach last year. Then you look at Patrick Graham, the Giants defensive coordinator. Okay, he's another guy that was in New England. But remember, Brady also has been going up against the Bill Belichick orchestrated defense for the first 20 years of his career. And Graham is a staple of that. So as much as the Giants are saying to themselves, all right, what could we do to throw something new at Brady to catch him off guard? I would argue, well, Brady also has seen the tricks that Belichick has thrown out over his tenure with New England. And Graham had a front row seat to that. So did Joe Judge. So I don't know if either team really, or either individual, I should say, has an advantage under those circumstances. I think the Giants are going to mix and match, which is what they do pretty much all game long. Their front four is the strength of their defense. The guys in the trenches. Now, Tampa Bay's offensive line, I think, has been effective outside of that Chicago game on Thursday Night Football. And Brady, gets rid of the ball very quickly. He's only been sacked 8 times. So I don't know how many opportunities there are going to be for the Giants to get after Brady, to hit him, which means that they're going to have to bat down balls at the line of scrimmage, and they're going to have to be really on point with their coverage. And that's how, to me, they're going to have to slow down Tom Brady, because you don't go into a game thinking this is going to be the game we're going to sack Brady 5 times. That very rarely occurs because he's so good at getting rid of the football. So you have to find other ways to create those things. And the way you get those opportunistic plays is you keep your hands up, you get your hands in the passing lane, so then Brady can't have those completions. That's, to me, one maneuver that I think the Giants are going to have to utilize throughout this game.
Now, Lance, before I let you go, I have to ask you this question because I have a lot of actually Giant fans that I have throughout the U.S. Asking me or texting me today, and I figured no better person to ask than you, who's on the show tonight. A lot of jibber-jabbing or rumbling going around about the possibility with the trade deadline coming up that you may see Ingram moved, you may see Tate moved. What's the latest you're hearing? Because I know some of the Giant fans that I know are a little bit concerned with that. Are you hearing that those? I mean, obviously you got one win. I'm sure you want to do something if you can help your team. But are you hearing anything of that sort?
Well, there has been a lot of chatter out there, as you just hit on. So, you hear the whispers, but as far as whether or not the whispers have any validity behind it, I think that's a completely different story. They did trade away Marcus Golden, who had a fantastic season for them in 2019, but they changed schemes, they changed defensive coordinators, and the Giants felt as if they could get a late round pick for somebody that was going to be a free agent anyway. So I understood that move. But when the Giants may approach this and say, okay, we'll listen to offers, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But the problem with the Giants, Larry, has been there's been so much turnover on this roster. Okay. And as you can attest to with any other team, specifically the good, consistent teams, the one thing that's synonymous with those teams is continuity, and continuity year to year. If you keep changing the roster, you change the coach, you change the scheme, I don't care how much talent you have. You can tell me all you want about Saquon Barkley and company. It's not going to translate to wins. So when people start saying, oh, well, Evan Ingram hasn't executed, and they point to the last game in Philadelphia, the drop on the 3rd down, and he's had the case of the dropsies throughout his career, and Golden Tate, I mentioned, is not necessarily putting up monster numbers. Well, let's get picks for them. Okay, well, first of all, you don't know what the picks are going to bring you because draft picks don't come with any guarantee. And you're then going to have to bring in and infuse new players on offense, which is what you're trying to avoid with a young quarterback who's learning a new offense. Here's the other thing. Evan Ingram, they picked up the option on his contract because remember, he's still on a rookie contract. He was a first-round pick in 2017. So they still have another year with them controlling Evan Ingram. Marcus Golden was set to be a free agent. So it's one thing, Larry, to say, hey, the Giants are going to move on from a player that was going to hit the market anyway. Why risk losing them for nothing if you get something in return? Completely buy that philosophy. But when you start moving on from players who you actually still have under your control on reasonable contracts, I don't know if there should be such an itch to get rid of them. Hey, if somebody offers the Giants something and it blows them away, I'm all for doing something that can help you long term. But I don't think the Giants also should be thinking, let's get rid of these guys for the sake of getting rid of them, simply because they're not winning football games and the court of public opinion maybe has turned against them. That doesn't help your team in the short run or the long run of it.
All right, I'm going to put you on the spot, and then I'm going to let you go, Lance. What do you look for? What type of game do you look for Monday night?
Well, given the fact that, as we started this conversation off with, Larry, that the offensive line is missing practice time, which I think is a red flag, and the fact that the Giants' offense has not necessarily lit up the scoreboard, and now they're going up against another team that could easily score 30 in the blink of an eye, which is pretty much what the Bucs are averaging. And we're talking about a defense that's ranked in the top 10 in just about every statistical category. I'm referring to Tampa Bay. The Giants have a funny way of keeping things interesting and making games interesting. So I would not overlook this team, but I think that the Bucs are the heavy favorites, and I would be very surprised if Tampa Bay does not win this game by at least a touchdown.
All right, Lance. Well, Lance, first of all, I want to thank you so very much for joining us on Friendly Speaking Sports tonight. It's been a pleasure having you. And listen, you're only one game behind first, my friend. So, there's a long season left. I'm going to be pulling for you. I'm telling you that, okay?
Well, it's a week-to-week league, as you well know, Larry. So things could drastically change 1 week in and out. There's no doubt about it. It was a pleasure coming on the program. Always enjoyed talking football. So thanks so much for having me on. Greatly appreciate it.
All right, you be safe.
You as well. Take care.
All right, that was Lance Meadows. He covers the pregame, the halftime show, the postgame show for the Giants Radio Network and also Sirius Radio. Got a lot of good information for those of you. You heard Lance say, as of now, it is play the game as scheduled. That's what we are hearing. So we definitely want to let you know that. For those of you, first of all, I want to let you all know that we are on several different platforms right now. If you follow us, you can follow us on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter at Larry Frankus, YouTube at Frankly Speaking Sports, and like I said, at Facebook as well. So lots of different ways to follow us. I know a lot of you are also on crewedforlife.com. That is another way to follow me as well. So hopefully you're enjoying this show. We're going to go ahead and we're going to put up a phone number here, give you a couple minutes left here where you can go ahead and call in, ask any questions you want on the Buccaneers, their upcoming game, anything you like, or leave a message where the comment section is as well. But, got some great information. Here's a team that's really struggling, and I think you pretty much heard that in Lance saying they're struggling on the line of the football, the offensive line. Here's a team whose offensive line is not only not very good, now they're not very good and can't practice this week. So it has the potential to be a very, very ugly week for the New York Giants. Obviously we wish all those players well and hope they can play, but more importantly, get back to health real quickly. But, you got to worry. If you're the Buccaneers, your big worry in this game is real simple. You cannot have a letdown. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I know it's a new year, it's a new regime, new quarterback, everything. They tend to play down to their competition, and this is one of those games where you can't let your guard down because, look last year. This is a very similar team that the Giants had that they had last year when they beat us last year in the home opener. So, you can't take any team in the NFL lightly. And this is another one of those games where they're going to have to come out and they're going to have to get on fire, and they're going to have to get on fire quickly. Their defense is going to need to make some big plays. The defense is going to need to show up. Daniel Jones had a very, very good game last year versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I'm sure Bruce Arians is going to remind them of that. But, this is definitely one of those games where you cannot look the other way. You have to come to play. Here's a team where Tom Brady should be able to pick apart. But you also got to remember, our cornerbacks have not, as well as our defense have played, our cornerbacks have struggled a little bit. And you got to hope that Daniel Jones doesn't pick that up a little bit. But this is a game, if you're asking me, I don't like seeing, obviously I want the W. You want the W. At the end of the day, you don't care. You get a W. You get, out of there, you win. But these are teams you have to go in and dominate. You have to show other teams we are for real. And this is one of those games you can go out and make a stand that we're not going to take anybody lightly. We're looking to come out and kick your butt no matter who the heck we are playing. And that's what they got to do against the Giants. The Giants do have weapons. Devontae Freeman, he's played in our division before. We know what he's capable of doing when you hand the ball off to him. We know what Sharp, we know what Ingram, we know what Slayton, we know what Tate, we know what these guys are able to do. So basically, if we come in and play the same type of football that we played the last 2 weeks, pretty much penalty-free, offensive line, as you heard Donovan Smith say earlier in the game with how tremendous everybody has been on that offensive line has to be the same. No letdown on any part of the ball. No letdown on defense. No letdown on offense. No letdown on special teams. Every single group has to come to play as if it's the most important game they're playing in, at least on that day. And I think we will be fine. A couple of quick notes before we get out of here tonight, folks. Let me go ahead and move that around. I want to make sure, first of all, we mentioned earlier in the show that don't forget the big watch party, Crew for Life, Crew Life, in association with Buccaneer Invasion at Dave & Buster's on Monday night for the Buccaneers and the Giants. Get there early. Bring friends. Bring family. I don't care. Bring people you're just meeting on the street. But bring people, have fun, enjoy yourself, and watch the Bucs beat up on the New York Giants on Monday night. If you're going, please, as I mentioned earlier, I would highly recommend that you get there, before game time. Probably, I would say, in the area of 7:30. It's at 10209 Estuary Lakes Drive, Tampa, Florida. And I got the zip code up there. For those of you that know the area, it's basically the Brandon-Tampa line. Dave & Buster's right there off of Falkenberg, off Estuary Lakes Drive. So plan on a good time there. Also, I had mentioned to you earlier, we have several new platforms. Make sure you join our YouTube, Frankly Speaking Sports. And then I want to remind you, this coming Monday, we will be on at 7 p.m. on Frankly Speaking Sports, and we have a very, very special guest for you. Although we will be breaking down and doing a pregame show for the Buccaneers, we're going to have former Buffalo Bills star Charles Rome, who was a cornerback in the 70s and 80s. He played for them for his whole career except 1 year. He played with the San Diego Chargers. Will be joining us live. That's Charles Rome, former cornerback for the Buffalo Bills. And then let's not forget on Tuesday night, it's our new USF program. If you're not a member of Bullseye, join Bullseye. All capital letters, space between Bulls and I. And we also are going to have a very special show on our Bullseye on Tuesday night. That'll be beginning at 9 p.m. And it looks like, as of now, I just want to make sure that I got everything right here. It looks like on that night, we're going to, and we probably will have two guests that night, but as of now, we definitely have Curtis Kitchen, former star basketball player with the USF Bulls, will be joining us Tuesday night. That's Curtis Kitchen. So we want to make sure you join us for that as well. So lots and lots of interviews, lots and lots of great shows coming up in the future. If you're not a member of the YouTube, join it. Join it now. If you're not a member of crewforlife.com, make sure you join it now so you can see all these great, great shows. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you all to have a great night. We'll see.